let me see if I can go as a viewer. Here it is. So let's go. Oh yes, I'm live. Okay, I can see we've got some people watching. Thank you. Have I seen this? Yes. Hello. Cool. So, thank you for coming. And I am going to start presenting now. I need to come back and look at the chat. Hello. Hello, Lina. Hello. And I will present and then I'll look at the chat. For some reason I can't see both at the same time. But and I'm using a piece of software here, which is a bit obscure. So let's have a look. Then I should have a slideshow. And I should be able to get image files, so I'll delete all this. I'm going to add files, or rather add directory. It's the first time I'm doing this, so thank you for bearing with me. And I think I've got them all. It's only 10 slides, so oh, there you go. This is good. This is good. I am still okay. Now I've managed to disappear, so that's okay. I guess you don't need to see me, and you can just watch me fail terribly at this. And I was supposed to be able to have my own camera there, my face in there at the same time. I'll just do this. Okay. Okay, what does this look like? There's a little bit of a delay, but hopefully yes. I'm just gonna start because I don't really understand what's going on and why I can't see myself on the screen. That's all. Okay, so patience is everything, I guess. Okay, so yeah, there's just a delay there. Yes, I would really quite like for you to see my face at the same time, but you're not missing anything. So, I'll start. I normally start by giving you some background And then the 5 things for you to know, I will bring them up at the end to summarize what we have discussed. Oh, now I properly did this. And I am going to talk about the neurotransmitters involved when we break up, and it's the same as when we meet someone. The relationship as a whole is ruled by a few key neurotransmitters. So dopamine is, you're familiar with those probably, but dopamine is a stimulant. It's connected to reward sensations, and it helps with pain relief. We get this when we feel wanted, when we have positive exchanges with somebody that we love, and we feel chased. Serotonin is when it causes us to feel calm and satisfied, and we get this when we feel connected, when we feel that sense of protection from being with someone, when we exchange affection, both when we give and we receive affection. And oxytocin is the bonding hormone. It's released by touch. It is released by sex, but not just that. When you pet an animal, it releases oxytocin as well. When you're just spending time with people that you feel quite close to, and releases oxytocin as well. So it has an antidepressant effect. It reduces fear and increases empathy. So that's why it's called the bonding hormone. You get it from bonding, and it also helps you bond more with other people. And what happens when we seek love, or when we are withdrawn from love? What tends to happen is that we release a lot of cortisol. So as mammals, we are wired to feel safe, connected, and to procreate. We are kind of made to have our DNA going down the family line, otherwise we might lose our sense of being in this earth and being in this world. It's a very real fear to not procreate. Even if at a conscious level we decide not to have children, our biology, our bodies are made for reproduction. And that leaves us at a very difficult place, because we have a biology that says, find a mate, find a partner, get together, make children as healthy as possible. But on the other hand, we are evolved, and we're much more than that, and we want to feel fulfilled, we want to self-actualize. And that biology sometimes gets in the way of us being who we want to be, or doing what we want to do in terms of career, friendships, anything you want to achieve in life. This biology might be causing us a lot of trouble. So when we lose a partner, we lose a source of dopamine, serotonin, oxytocin, because all of those neurotransmitters that were going on, they're now gone. So your brain goes into a withdrawal mode. And it also increases cortisol, which is the stress hormone. So your body is wired for reproduction, it doesn't care. It doesn't care what's happening and why the relationship didn't work out. It just sends this cascade of stress hormones and makes us feel very stressed, and our thoughts go everywhere. So, welcome to Irritability Road, because it is the result of a chemical process, a biochemical process, that is something we really have to be aware of. And I am going to put myself on the screen now for a moment. So there is no running from our biology, and we can work with it, but working against it takes extra effort. I'm going to also discuss our social element, our cognitive element, perhaps even, if we have time, a spiritual element, which all surround our existence, but we are based on this biology that drives us to seek a relationship and to seek not being rejected by a partner. And it is really difficult for us when that happens. But what I want you to take with you, first and foremost, is that this is a biological process. There is nothing wrong with feeling upset when a relationship is over. It's completely biological, it's completely normal. And it's extremely difficult to fight against it. It takes time. It feels like drug withdrawal at the first 90 days, but it can go on for longer because of how our bodies respond, and until we find coping strategies to mitigate those effects. Mate rejection is a bad outcome for our DNA. Our body doesn't like it at all. So we need to find coping strategies for that. And that's where things get very complicated. I'm seeing a huge delay on the slides, and I don't seem to be able to show my face for some reason. And yeah, so hopefully yeah, sorry about that. I really don't know what's going on and why I can't seem to show my face on this thing. It doesn't let me. I'll carry on. What I wanted to say is that everything we do to survive. Our brains are, and our bodies are wired for survival, not happiness. And what that means is that we aim to be happy, but in fact we have a body and a brain wired to seek danger and fight enemies and survive and imprint our DNA onto the world and consume and sometimes even destroy on behalf of our own survival. And we are always going to be at odds with that need for survival versus the need for connection and self-actualization and growth and happiness. So it is a fine line that we always need to thread between. Happiness is a very, the brief moments of happiness, really. The rest of the time we're just trying to survive. So next I wanted to talk about how we are biological beings. As humans, we are biological beings, sentient beings, and social beings. And we've discussed what it is to be a biological being and how our body is wired. And now we're going to jump on to sentient beings, which means we are conscious of ourselves. And that consciousness invites us to make meaning of everything. And we try to connect everything, we try to predict, we try to learn, and we try to protect ourselves. And we know now, at a neuroscientific level, that the key to learn is create a story. So if you want to remember something, it's like when you were at school, we remember things better if we make a song. So that song is the story of our lives. We put everything in a story so we can make sense of it, and we can make sense of who we are, and we can build an identity, and then we can decide what to do on our daily lives with ourselves based on this identity that we created. It helps us make decisions. And the problem with that is that we started creating a story before we knew who we were. And we continue creating this story after. And now what happens? Well, we have all these stories that we created, and we can't find a way out of them. So we just find ourselves one day, you wake up in the morning and the thought comes to you, I'll never find anyone because, and then fill the gaps. So I've heard everything. I will never find anyone because I live in England, and all English people are cold. I don't know, whatever stigma you can put, whatever label you can put. Or I'll never find anyone else because I only like someone who has one brown eye and one blue eye. Or I will never find anyone. There is an infinite reasons there why we think we'll never find anyone when a relationship ends. And that reason, you will see in a moment, is in line with the story that we created to define who we are as a person and how we relate onto the world. And that is a coping mechanism. Why? Because if you put that into a context, it kind of releases some of the pain, because it's a depressant. So you've got all that cortisol going on, and you've got a lot of fear, and you've got a lot of expectations, and there is a setback because the relationship is over, and then you think, well, it's just what it is. So I am going to depress myself with the thought that I'll never find anyone else. Or there is a part of you that will say that you will never find anyone else because it just feels hopeless. But in any case, it is a way of depressing your nervous system so you don't do something that you consider stupid. It's counterintuitive in a sense, and it is quite easy to understand once we step out of it and go back into it with different eyes. But there is a biological reason why we think we'll never find anyone when we break up with somebody. It is to do with the shock of and the fear of being alone. It's almost better to think that it will never happen again and you should just settle than to have your hopes up straight away. It's safer. And then in addition to that, there are stories that we might have been telling ourselves since we were children. I am unlovable, and this is just a proof that I am unlovable. Or there's something wrong with me, there's something wrong with the world, there's something wrong with society, there's something wrong with people of my age, or there's something wrong with something that is external to us. That's also a story. And these stories, they are aligned directly with our attachment styles. And I am going to get there in right now, actually. So this is really important because we have the privilege of living in a time where attachment styles have been widely studied. We know a lot about them, so we can use this as a framework. And it is really consistent, and at the same time it is quite simple. So without going into too much detail, the short version of this is we have 4 main attachment styles, and they stem from our relationships with our caretakers on one hand, but on the other hand it is our own interpretation of the world, which is why siblings may have different attachment styles, because your parents or your caretakers may behave one way, but your interpretation of their behavior is your own. It is just completely how you will perceive it. And what that does, so if you look at those 4 quadrants there, you will find the first one on the left and the top is I'm okay, you're okay. So this is when you think that there's nothing wrong with you and there's nothing wrong with other people, and you're secure attached, so you're fine having relationships, you approach people, you understand that they will give you what you need, but you also can give yourself what you need. So you've got a lot of self-assurance on that one. And on the right hand side, I'm not okay, you're okay, is when we grow up with the belief that there's something wrong with us. So my caretaker didn't come to see to my needs because there's something wrong with me. And therefore no one will ever love me because there's something wrong with me. Ultimately there's something wrong with me. So, but everyone else is fine. And so you become, of course, anxious. You live with that fear that at some point you will be found out, and you just feel like you're always pretending. So that is a very anxious place to be, because you will always be trying your best, you will always be trying to prove yourself, and it's exhausting. But at least you are able to have a relationship because in a sense you claim some of the control to yourself. So in a sense you decide, I'm not okay, but I can try. So you're always anxious that you might fail, but ultimately you should be able to make it work. The problem with that is that when something goes wrong and there's a breakup, then you largely blame yourself for everything that happened and discount the other people's participation on the breakup. And you discount their fault or minimize their faults because you think something's wrong with you. On the bottom left hand side, I'm okay, you're not okay. So this is called the avoidant attachment style, and it's when as a child we grow up to believe that our caretaker is unreliable at best and malicious at worst. So it happens a lot with trauma. Children who grow up with parents who maybe suffered from addiction, maybe were abusive, maybe they didn't grow up with their parents, maybe they grew up with people who didn't really care about them, and they've learned that they cannot count on them to have their needs met, but also it is just straight dangerous to do so because you are at risk of being harmed just for having needs. That is of course a very, very distressing place to be because you don't know what to expect from people. So you grow up not really able to trust anyone, and unlike the last one, if you lean towards that bias, then you will always blame everything that went wrong onto the other person without really having given them much of a chance. So, and then of course it is just half the truth. And lastly is the fearful, so right hand side bottom of the screen. I'm not okay, you're not okay. This is high avoidance, high anxiety. So when we grow up under these assumptions, we cannot trust anyone and we cannot trust ourselves, and this is where a lot of pathologies come from. It causes a lot of fear. It is behind most addictions, most dysfunctional relationships. It causes a lot of suffering because of course you cannot trust anyone to meet your needs, and you cannot trust yourself to meet your own needs or that of the others. So it's a pretty scary place to be, and if that's an attachment style that's identified, then yeah, we need to go through some therapy and change that. So there is a very good book which I put in here if you're interested on attachment theory, which isn't just that, it's from Transactional Analysis. It's called I'm Okay, You're Okay. It's written by Thomas Anthony Harris. It's from 1961, so it's an oldie, but it's a goodie still. And it's available on Amazon, on Kindle, or anywhere. It's pretty easy to get hold of, and by all means have a go, because this is really important. Our attachment styles bias our relationships to anyone, but particularly with a partner. It is just really difficult to see reality for what it is, and if there is an attachment injury, I mean there always is. We all have attachment injuries from childhood. There is no question. The question is, how did we interpret it, and have we been given the chance to get over them and heal? And if the answer is no, then yes, we're probably carrying that wound, the attachment wound, in this is making decisions for us before we even are aware of it. It's already deciding. So you can look at this image, and this is how the relationship will play out from the outset. So you've already started a relationship with someone deciding that you're not okay and they're okay, or that you're okay and they're not okay. So you're already deciding that it doesn't really matter what the person does because the bias is already there. So this is something that we should really be aware of. Next, social expectations. Oh, great. So my slide has really not gone very well there, but I hope we can get over the slide aspect of it and move on to the content. So the family and culture impact on relationships. This is the main reason behind guilt and shame. Because if you feel shame, if you feel ashamed, this is to do with your family or your culture as a whole. And there is a lot of stigma around relationship breakdown. And we will have internalized a lot of ideas which don't belong to us, that have come to us through our parents or through our culture, and beliefs that a woman should be married before she's 30, for example. Many cultures say that being divorced is bad, it's wrong, you failed the relationship. Many parents decide that your children have to be married to be happy and safe, and then they will make sure that you understand that you need a relationship to survive. And those things, they might be unsaid, and you just have that feeling of shame, but you don't really know why, because shame is so painful that we tend to avoid it at all costs, even the thought of it. So something that really gets in the way of getting over a breakup is shame, because there is an underlying feeling of shame. Shame is so painful that we prefer death than to feel shame. The samurais used to commit suicide by disemboweling themselves with the sword, because shame was just not an option. This is how bad we react to shame. Shame is something so uncomfortable, we will do anything to avoid it, to avoid even get close to thinking about it. And the reason why we might be holding on to a feeling, a thought, an idea, or somebody is probably because we want to avoid the feeling of shame. And this feeling of shame is linked to something that is in the underlying layout of your culture and your family. So really be mindful of what your parents say, what's expected of you as an adult in terms of relationships, and examine how that plays out with you. How does that affect you, and how whatever you said, did, is a reason in this society eyes to be ashamed of. And when you find it, it will become very clear why it is so painful to go there. And guilt is the same. It's just the difference between shame and guilt is that guilt is when I think I did something bad. So I've done something wrong, I feel guilty. I've done something wrong, I am guilty because I didn't make the relationship work. I'm guilty because I wasn't the daughter my mother expected me to be. I'm guilty because I disappointed somebody, or I didn't do everything that was expected of me to do. Shame is a feeling of I am bad. So I am this horrible thing who cannot make relationships work. So it's a fine line, but shame is more permanent. Shame is something that you feel you are in your bones. I'm so inadequate. I'm just never going to make anyone love me because I am so bad. That's shame. Guilt is, oh, I couldn't make this work. But notice none of those things are true, really, and they're not necessary. So, of course, me saying it at first won't really have much of an effect. But if you really sit down with this and talk to someone about it and try to understand where are those feelings coming from, because you can get rid of them. You don't need them. This is external. It's external. It's not internal. If you really remove the social expectations from your surroundings and look at who you really are, you will notice that you know what's good for you. You know in your bones and in your heart what is good for you. And that you made whatever decisions you had to make because you knew that was the good decision to make, and you don't need anyone's approval. And that is very liberating when you come to that conclusion, because you regain a sense of self, you regain the power of being a free human being and interacted with this world the way you want, not the way that other people expect you to. And I could go on forever on this, because we impose each other many limitations and we judge each other, and this is all a game we play to feel safe. So when we shame someone because of something they did, what we're really trying to do is to keep some sort of order in the world, and it comes from fear. So we shame our children into being a good boy or a good girl because we want them to survive, but also because we need confirmation that whatever we understand as culturally acceptable is reality, because if they challenge that reality, then we might not know who we are. So it's very complicated, of course. Nothing is easy, but I just wanted you to know that you don't need the shame and the guilt you might be carrying, and you can just talk to someone and sort this out and work this through, and you will be able to see more clearly. And yeah, that's my main message. Unrealistic expectations, of course, needless to say. You know, we are expected to be married, and we can't always do that. We can't be with the same partner forever for many reasons. That's just not one or two. There are many reasons, and it's unrealistic to expect. It's the exception, it's not the norm. To find someone who married their first or second boyfriends and girlfriends and lived forever happy, it's almost impossible. So it's very unrealistic, the expectations we place on ourselves. And the last aspect of social expectations is when we are in a relationship, we build an image of ourselves as a couple. And this is something that naturally happens. When we split, then of course, we need to rebuild our image as a single person. And that can be very painful. And we might even lose friends in the process, because some friends, they think they need to take sides. So they might even want to stay completely out of it instead of taking sides. So it's really difficult. There is also a lot of shame around that, and that's something we need to work through, because but rebuilding a sense of self and rebuilding a self-image as a single person, reasserting yourself into the world as a single person, takes a lot of work. But once you've done it, you feel a lot better. And then we have this, so our society is biased towards couples. So and we are against being single. And this is so bad that it is difficult to find studies that examine life as a single person. We have a whole subject in psychology of family psychology, marriage psychology, marriage counseling, relationship counseling, several studies of what makes a marriage work or not work, hundreds of thousands. But we don't have a lot of literature on what it's like to be single. However, a few studies lately, many people have taken to see the subject through. They have found that single people, once you do come into terms with being a single person and adapt your life as a single person, you're actually happier. So there is someone called De Paulo. I will later add links to the video, because I'm sure this video will be available, as clumsy as it is. But I'm going to put all the links to everything all the content I'm putting in here, so you can verify what I'm saying, and also find out more if you want to. But De Paulo, a researcher, she found that single individuals, in comparison to married people, they have an increased sense of self-determination. They experience continued growth and development as a person. This is an opportunity. Being single is an opportunity to do things your way. And it is scary. And we are biased to be a couple. There is no doubt about it. But if you can get through that and you can start enjoying doing things on your own, you will find a lot of freedom, because you can make your choices. You don't need to compromise. You don't need to meet in the middle. You can go wherever you want. You can travel where you want. You can take up a hobby, classes, meet people. When we are a couple, we tend to close up, and when you're single, you open. So when you go somewhere, you're more free to meet new people, to do things on your own. And that eventually leads to more life satisfaction, because it's easier to self-actualize. The analysis that De Paulo, it's a woman, De Paulo, and she concentrated on lifelong single people and reported that they are most self-sufficient and had less chance of experiencing negative emotions. And the opposite was true for married individuals. Previous research showed that in some cases, areas of autonomy and personal development were enhanced in single people over those who were married. Yes, so of course, you don't have anyone to fight with if you're single, and you will experience less negative emotions. Being in a relationship is very energy consuming and very time consuming, and it is also an opportunity for growth. Being married or being with a partner is an opportunity for growth. Being single is an opportunity as well, in different ways. Because if you're married for the sake of being married, for the sake of being with someone, and you start giving up your personality on behalf of the relationship, this is when you really get into trouble. I will try and come up, but I just don't know. Found! Okay, there was a button I had to press. Sorry about that. So it's my face now. You unfortunately will have to see. Being in a relationship for the sake of being in a relationship and putting your needs aside and your personality aside and giving up on your interests, giving up on your hobbies, giving up on on so many things for the sake of being with somebody is very dangerous, and it will get in the way of us finding who we are. In person-centered therapy, which is Carl Rogers' approach, he says we have a natural self, which is what he calls the organismic self, and this is who we really are and is our nature. And then we have an ideal self, which is who we think we need to be. And then there is some in between, which is what we end up as. And we end up fighting between who we want to be and our true nature. And if being in a relationship might not feel natural sometimes, and it might be you or it might be them, it might be that you're perfectly happy in the relationship, but it might be that they're not. And we need a lot of space to be who we want to be. So when a relationship ends, it is not someone's fault. It is not their fault. It's not my fault. A relationship is an entity that is separate from me and them. A relationship is a combination of factors. Does this relationship allow full expression of my soul? And if the answer is no, it's likely the relationship will cause a lot of pain, there will be a lot of friction, and ultimately it will end because we are true to ourselves at some point, even if it takes 40 years. I've seen people being married for 40 years and then decide, I have another 20 years to live, I'm going to do whatever I want to do. Because I need to self-actualize, I need to be true to myself. I need to go to Africa, or I need to learn Mandarin and live in China for a while. But my partner can't stand the thought of, being away from home for 2 months. So what do? Well, we split. So it's not my fault, it's not their fault, it is the relationship. And all this clarity comes after we jump all of these hurdles, the biological hurdle, the social hurdle, and all the other hurdles which I'm going to summarize just now. And I'm going to transition. Okay, now I did something. Let's see if I can fix this, so you can read what I have to say. Okay, this is the last slide. Thank God. You're probably tired of my mumbling as well. And I need to put my face a little bit smaller, and also at the bottom of the screen. Okay, there I go. This looks absolutely ridiculous, but it will do for now. So here is a summary of the 5 things that you must know. 1. Your brain is wired for survival, not happiness. It doesn't always feel good. It feels worse than it is. Your chemistry, your biology is telling that everything is wrong, that you need to find a mate, that you need to procreate, that if you don't find, you're unsuitable, you're unlovable, all of that. It's just your biology. Allow for that to happen without taking it as a real sign that is something wrong, because there isn't really. It's just your biology. We are evolved, we are more than that. We can decide if we want to have children or not. If we don't have children, if we decide that we don't want them, it's fine. And also, we know now that it's better if we choose well than just having a child with somebody for the sake of it. So your body, your chemistry, your biology don't know any of that. It doesn't have any context. So just allow your biology to be, being aware of it, but don't act on it. It will pass, right? It will pass. With time, you just reassure yourself, okay, I feel stressed right now, I feel really scared, and I have those sensations that something is really wrong. But it's not true. It's not really wrong. It's not, it isn't the reality. It's just my body reacting the way it's supposed to react, and that's normal and expected. I can go for a swim, I can go and see some friends, I can pursue a hobby, I can do something else and soothe my body and get those neurotransmitters in a different way and forget about the relationship, because the body also has no memory. So, it's only when you think about it, it's only when you're thinking about the relationship stuff that your body will respond. But when you take your mind off it and you do something else and you find meaning in your life as a single person, and your body will calm down, your nervous system will calm down, and your chemistry will change. It's a habit. So it's just getting into the habit of being a step ahead, being just a little bit ahead of your biology. Just remember, your brain is wired for survival, not happiness. The happiness bit, you need to work. You need to make it happen. It won't happen for you. You have to go after the moments of bliss, doing whatever you have to do to feel blissful. And whatever it is to you, is it seeing friends? Is it doing yoga? Is it exercising? Maybe it's not. Is it traveling? Is it learning something new? Whatever makes you feel good, this is what you need to seek. And it's absolutely fine. You can, to a big extent, understand and deal with your biology. 2, we need to make meaning, and thus we create a storyline. But this storyline we create is not reality. We put things together which are not necessarily true. And it all comes down to your attachment style. But before we go that, just notice there is an exercise for you to do. When an idea comes to your mind and it makes you upset, just stop for a moment and think, is this really true? What if it was the opposite? And just play with it being the opposite. And if it is the opposite, how would that make you feel? We create shortcuts for decision making, and this story that we create for ourselves is a shortcut. It's nothing more than that. We do need to step out a bit. Maybe story writing is good, because when you write, put your thoughts into a character. Get it out of yourself. Get it into a third person. Look at what it looks like from the outside. Perhaps a good thought experiment is to think, what if a friend of mine told me this story? What if a particular friend that I know, what if she told me the same story? How would I interpret? Would I really make the same assumptions? It's likely that you wouldn't, because we are creating this reality. We create the story. 3, your attachment style biases all your relationships, so learn yours. Learn your attachment style. If you need help, seek help, but you read the book or look online. There are lots of online tests. I will put some on the description of the video or in the group to give you some direction, but you should know your attachment style, because that will make a lot of sense. And then you can look at the attachment style, look at the story, and then remove all that and think, okay, then maybe I can be different. 4, shame and guilt are a gift from your family and culture to you. It's a gift to you. You can take it or you can refuse it. Do you need it? I know we think we need it. We don't. We don't need shame and guilt to make decisions of what is right to do. You know in your heart what is the right thing to do. There is some part of you that is always there, that is always loving, that is always wise, and that comes through when you feel calm, when you feel safe, particularly safe. When you have a safe space where you can explore your thoughts, explore your personality, explore everything, you will see that you're able to make decisions, to interpret the events, and ultimately do the right thing for yourself and for others. You don't need guilt and shame. This is something else. We can work on this. I can make a video about guilt and shame one day. It's probably a good idea. But no, it is not. It doesn't have to be. And 5, single people who embrace being single are happier and healthier. You have a lot of time for yourself, where you can do a lot of soul searching. You can do whatever you want. You're free. If you can unshackle yourself from all the 4 points above, and you can be comfortable being alone, then you have a lot more flexibility in terms of who you decide to have a relationship with. And ultimately, it will be a better relationship because we're not actively seeking it. We're not thinking our life depends on it. We feel more settled. We have more clarity. Then we can find someone who is actually more appropriate, and hopefully then have a relationship on the basis of being appropriate for each other, enjoying each other's company, and not have that fear that something might go wrong at any time, which is crippling. So, we don't need that. You don't need that. And I just wanted you to know that. And this video is clumsy. Thank you for staying with me. I really appreciate it. Let me see if I can change. I can. There you go. So thank you so much for staying with me. I really appreciate your time. I'm sorry the video is clumsy. I'm using a program here that I realize now I didn't know how to operate. Let me look here. If you would like to put anything on the chat now, please be welcome. Any questions? I'll be here and answer anything you would like me to get into a little bit more. I'll be happy to. If not, I will close off, and please share this video with anyone that you feel like would benefit from this information. And again, I'll leave all the literature for you to do some more research. And if you can also please give us some ideas of what would you like to happen with the group. If you just want to go for a coffee, I can organize that. If you want, I don't know, I'm trying everything, and whatever you feel that would be helpful, let me know. I will organize. And once again, thank you. So I'm just waiting to see if there are any questions here. Yes. Okay. And also, it could be the same with being alone with people. Being alone can be enjoyable if you are doing something to entertain yourself. If you're feeling lonely, it's probably because there is a disconnection between your own sense of self. And I don't want to get too deep, but we have this sense of, we have this self, which is the essence of our being. And it gets covered by parts. And because again we are wired for survival, we can be disconnected from this sense of self. And when that happens, you feel lonely, because there is a disconnection between your own self, you know. So I would say, what is it that you really want to do? Who do you really want to be? If you put that down, and then think of what's stopping you from getting in touch with that real person that's trying to adapt. It's probably not what you expected, but it is. The world is a mirror. It's just a mirror. Other people are a mirror. We are enough within ourselves at any time. So if you feel comfortable in your own company, and if you're sitting alone and you can find things to do, and if you feel comfortable enough to give someone a call and organize to see them, organize to do an activity that you like, or leave the house, or interact with people. Yeah, exactly. So, when we feel more connected with your real self, you don't feel fear. You feel more connected with the world, and it feels more comfortable to go out and to stay alone the same. But if you still feel isolated, it's because you're isolated from that real self of yours, which is hidden. It's being protected away. It's just kind of sheltered. It's sheltering from the world because the world maybe doesn't feel safe. And it's a process, but it starts with an awareness, and you're here, you're seeking, you're researching, and I will add more material about this on the comment section, and on the meetup group as well, so you can have a read about it, and I hope that helps. Okay. All right. If I don't get anything else, then I will love you and leave you. And once again, thank you so much for staying with me. This has been great. I admire your patience and respect you so much for staying with me through this clumsy video. And I wish you a wonderful evening. And yeah, take care. Carry on researching, and you will find it. It will come to you. So, goodbye.